Have you ever tried keeping a travel journal or sketchbook and then ended up coming home with a bunch of blank pages and regrets because you didn't keep up your practice of your travel journal along the way? You ended up bringing a bunch of supplies maybe that you didn't use as well and lugging them around the whole time. Or maybe just got bored because you didn't really know what to write about or how to document it in your visual journal or sketchbook. Well, believe it or not, this is such a common dilemma around travel journaling. So today I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different ways and options for keeping a travel journal or travel sketchbook that you'll actually use and really love, because you'll come home with full pages filled with your travel memories and experiences that you'll reflect on and enjoy for a lifetime. Hi, and welcome back. I'm Lisa Sonora, and this channel is all about using your creativity for your personal and spiritual growth. I've been teaching writing, painting, and keeping visual journals for decades now, and travel is my twin passion to art making. So combining art and travel together, especially when I'm guiding art workshop tours with kindred spirits, is my absolute favorite thing ever. So come on, we can armchair travel together and geek out about travel sketchbooks in this video. Oh, and a fun fact, I've taught visual journaling workshops on 5 continents now and counting, and have kept visual journals in over 30 countries. So I've learned a few tips and techniques and tricks about keeping travel sketchbooks and journals that I'm going to share with you today. I'll also show you some of my own travel journals to give you ideas you can use for your next trip. And I think you're going to be surprised at just how versatile, how many options there are for keeping a travel sketchbook. Now, I'm using the word sketchbook and journal interchangeably, and I don't mean that to confuse anyone, but as you'll see, you can keep a travel journal / sketchbook for a variety of reasons, which I'll go into in detail in this video. Welcome to this big, fun, beautiful pile of travel journals. I wanted to make this video for you just to show you what is possible, whether you want to do a lot of artwork in your travel journals or not. Maybe your travel journals are mostly writing, diary style. So that's where I want to start, kind of from the simplest and easiest, but I want to end the video with a type of travel journal I think of as thinking outside the journal. It's actually in a box, so it's thinking inside a box. But I'll show you this one at the end, because this is just one of my favorite ways to travel journal. If you're new to keeping a travel journal and you want to try keeping a travel sketchbook, the technique I recommend, this is how I kept my travel journals and actually my visual journals for maybe about 15 to 20 years in these spiral bound. Now you'll notice the spiral is taken out because I scanned these. I wanted to use them for a project, so it was easier to scan them without the metal binding on them. These are simple sketchbook paper diaries. And on this particular trip, this was back in 2001, I was traveling super light, and I was going through these quite quickly every couple of months. So they're filled with mostly writing, and then I just use simple markers to do illustrations of things and to highlight things. So that is one type of travel sketchbook you can keep. This is a slightly different version. It's recycled sketch paper, better quality paper. I just used whatever I could find along the way on my travels. And as we progress, you'll see my travel journals become quite more painted. So here's an example. This is also this kind of 5.5 by 8.5 inches, 14 by 21 centimeters sketchbook. I really love this size because it's really portable. Fits in your bag. So with these, I use a lot of paint and sketching. It's a wonderful way to document the ordinary moments of a trip. For example, here I'm talking about my headache in Spanish. Sketching scenes from whatever cafe I was sitting in. I usually work in my travel sketchbooks in a cafe. I was in Arles, so taking in a lot of sights having to do with Vincent van Gogh when he lived there. French, being in France, trying to learn some French phrases. I love to travel. In all of my travel sketchbooks, I usually create a calendar somewhere in there of where I'm going, where I've been, just so I remember. And regardless of what type of travel journal I'm keeping, I always have these small little notebooks that I can stick in a pocket and quickly jot down things so that I don't have to haul out my whole sketchbook and make an entry. I might not be sure where I want it to go. So these are really handy. I have them a little bit larger too, but I'll do lots of note taking, especially addresses and people I meet, names. It's really handy to have these, and then they end up getting integrated into my travel sketchbook. This particular travel sketchbook, I didn't use a blank sketchbook, but I made this out of a book that I found in a used bookshop on my trip. And as I'm sharing these, you'll see that, or maybe it's not going to be obvious, but I'll tell you, my type of travel journaling really comes about through giving myself creative assignments and creative projects. So for this one, I brought no sketchbook, and I thought, let me see what I can find. I love making altered books. So that is what I did with this one. My travel sketchbooks are quite abstract a lot of times, especially if they don't have a lot of writing. This one is done in a bit larger notebook. It's not even really a proper sketchbook, but I really liked the size of this notebook. It's almost the size of a full sheet of paper. And with this one, I was on an artist residency. And so it has a lot of writing about my process of the project I was working on at this artist residency I did in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. This was my room. And so there are a lot of notes in here. I've marked the pages I want to show you with washi tape. I'll pick things out of the local newspaper and glue them in. The walk to the studio up these stairs. I can't remember what writer said this, but they say the longest walk you'll take every day is the walk to the studio, you know, whether you're a painter or writer. These are all progress notes on my art residency. This was the studio I was working in on this 1,000+ paintings project. I did them all on found recycled cardboard and things I was finding. Here's some of the work in progress. I imagine these being exhibited in a shipping container. So a lot of this particular travel sketchbook has to do with being in the studio. These notes are by day. I always keep a piece of craft paper, like I think this was actually a big paper bag I cut up, and I'll put it on the table where I'm working and just take notes as I'm going. I sprained my ankle this day, and the message I got was, take a break, you know, but not a literal break. Slow down, girl. In Mexico, they have these wonderful calendars they give out, so that went in here. collaging things. Okay, this is going to take forever if I show you more of that. This particular sketchbook is one I made during a week in Paris, and I have a whole separate video on this that I'll link in the description box and at the end of the video. So this is done in a Moleskine journal. It's really like the size of my hand here. I love this size travel journal. I have a bunch of different ones like this, but this is, they call it a Japanese album because the pages fold out. So that can be a really fun way to work, especially if you want to break out of, you know, one small page spread like this. Your travel journal could just tell a whole long story in a sketch. Speaking of Moleskine, here is another one. This is a Moleskine sketchbook. So the pages are almost kind of cardboard thickness. Let's see. So I do lots of collage and paste in magazines and things that I'm finding on the trip. Notes to myself. I love using rubber stamps. If you have any questions about my process, I'd love to hear them, or you know, things you wish I'd talked about, let me know in the comments. I look at all the comments and I pretty much answer everyone's question or respond to your comments. Also, I include a lot of different flaps. Where there's a path, it is someone else's way. Joseph Campbell said that. I love collecting quotes and things to guide the theme of the journey I'm on in that particular travel sketchbook. Another creative challenge type sketchbook. This one, believe it or not, is also not a blank book. It is a magazine. Actually, this magazine even had really thin paper. So I painted the pages, and then I found the pages really took paint beautifully. And what I used this for, you can see the contents from the original magazine. So the magazine was larger. I just trimmed it down with a X-Acto knife. What I did when I was meeting artists along the way, I would have them add something to this journal. This is my own, but then I would let people add things. This was from the original magazine, a picture of the Canyonlands. Here's my abstract interpretation of that. This is by the wonderful artist Paul Cade, who I got to meet up with in San Miguel de Allende back in 2014. So this is very significant to me to have the work of other artists in my sketchbook. So if you're keeping a travel sketchbook and you meet other artists who draw or, you know, create, this is from Judy Wise. I've really had the fortune to meet so many wonderful artists. Connie Solera, she wrote me a note in here. Rachel Dominguez. Yeah, so even more than letters, or this is from Haley Carla when she took a workshop with me. Anyway, that's probably a whole nother video worth of a video there. Yeah, I love collecting the work of other artists by buying their paintings if they're visual artists, or collecting their books if they're writers, but then having them in my own travel sketchbook is pretty much my favorite thing to have. Here is a different type of hardcover sketchbook. I really love these. They're by ProArt. You can find them. I have a Amazon shop linked down below with all of my favorite sketchbooks and supplies. But I've used these for years and I just love them. They take paint really well. You can see I really give my sketchbooks quite a workout. They get beat up. They're, you know, traveling around. I don't treat them preciously. But here I was in San Francisco, where I used to live, and I made a trip to the Japanese garden. There's this wonderful Buddha statue in there. And so I made a bunch of sketches of it before I made the drawing that I'll go back to in a second. I often use wax paper in between damp pages, and then I often like just what happens on the paper, so I'll glue that in. I like doing just very quick sketches, and then this one I sketched a little bit longer, and I do it on top of collage. This was a magazine that I picked up in San Francisco. Free donuts. Okay, we're almost at the end. I wanted to show you this. This is a technique I use when I teach travel journaling workshops. Well, one of the types. I call it Creative Passport, and I've done this all around the world, where I show people how to make their own travel journal out of everything they find on the trip. So they're not using a blank sketchbook for this particular type of project, but they're making this as we go. So I show them how to paint paper, how to collage, how to get the best photographs, how to find really cool ephemera wherever they're traveling with me. So I've done these in Mexico, Italy, all over the place. So this is another way you can make a travel journal. These are my notes from my Creative Passport workshop. So some people like to make their handmade travel journal. I call it a Creative Passport sketchbook. You can do this in a big chunk like this, which I love. But you can also make it in smaller signatures and then bind them together. So this is an unbound sample that I have for my workshop so that I can show people, you know, how they can make these small signatures and then bind them together. So got all these different little handouts I give to people. We print photos as we go so that you can get them the right size. Do you ever print out screenshots that you take? This is actually one of my paintings I was using as a screensaver, and I just thought it was cool that it was 444 on March 4th. I don't know, easily amused. Photos of our group. So these are really fun and satisfying things to make, and then you just have, this is like a week's worth of a travel journal. And again, it's really portable. Well, and it can also get quite chunky as well, but portable enough to carry around and then also add to when you get home. That's one thing I wanted to mention. Oh, here's another one that I did in a class, the same type of Creative Passport book that I did in Italy, with lots of ephemera and Italian papers, lots of writing, my photographs. I think it's like an alternative way of keeping a sketchbook, or keeping a scrapbook, sorry, because you're doing it on the go and then you're not worried so much about filling it in later. Okay, here's the second to the last one. This I'm experimenting with. I haven't added to this, but I was practicing some bookbinding techniques. And for this This is a handmade journal, and I didn't really have the proper bookbinding supplies, so it's a little bit wonky, like I didn't have proper glue or even bookbinding tape. I used box sealing tape. This is not even binding stuff. This is embroidery thread that I found here in Mexico, but I really was eager to try this. So this is made up of some decorative papers that I happen to have with me, but also just found papers. And I love these Mexican Loteria cards, so I kind of used these on each signature to make things a little bit sturdy. But the idea with this type of sketchbook is you can glue things and write on these pages and add to it, but I haven't done that yet. I kind of like it as it is, and this is almost like a sample of what type of journals I can make. This is from a ledger journal that I bought at a vintage shop in Barcelona. So yes, I do collect books on my travels. It's a hazard. Okay, finally, let me show you this one. This is what I call a postcard journal, and I got so many questions about this, so I actually documented my whole process of making this into a small online workshop, which I'll link below. It's called the Postcard Journal, and I did all of my journaling on postcards and think cards that I found throughout this 5-week trip I took through Spain, France, and Morocco. And so just having this whole stack of postcards, this came about from another creative challenge where I was like, let me see how I can document my experience with image without bringing any art supplies with me, just my pen. Let me see what I can find and what I could do. And so very quickly I realized, wow, what if I just had fun and bought postcards, which I love to buy anyway. This is from the Louvre. That's where Mona Lisa lives. So this was so fun because I had a purpose to my trip, which is to find postcards every day. So I have more about that, all the details, all about this in the Postcard Journal class, but I just wanted to show you, you can keep a travel journal of your memories without having a sketchbook, without having to do major art supplies unless you want to. It can be mostly writing. You can even do it on postcards.